The world is fast changing and news breaks at lightning speed. Let us guide you through events and stories about global narratives and developments in geopolitics, diplomacy, foreign affairs, and world economy. Get factual and multi-angle perspectives on stories around the globe. Global Television brings you Diplomatic Perspective every Monday and Friday with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Diplomatic Perspective, the world in front of you.
Hello and welcome to another time again for us to look at diplomatic issues. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. We're looking at South Africa and US in focus. As a matter of fact, we're looking at Nigeria's declining, of course, influence among the nations. And of course, my guest is a policy analyst on the program today in the person of Emmanuel Ozemena. It's good to have you join us on the program.
Yeah, good evening and good evening, viewers.
Welcome to Diplomatic Perspective once again.
Thank you, Ramsey.
Yes, Nigeria have been able to evacuate the last set of Nigerians who want to leave South Africa because of the xenophobic attacks. And a lot of Nigerians are asking questions. I know this same question will be in the mind of the people evacuated too. What's next? So in your own opinion, what do you think should be next for these people evacuated from South Africa?
I think to begin with, the government last finally took the bull by the horn by initiating an evacuation, process, which began in, I think, on the 10th of June and was completed 2 days ago on the 15th of July. And a total of 1,490 Nigerians have been brought back home. And if you watch I think 2 weeks ago, the Nigerian acting High Commissioner to South Africa, Tope Ajayi, had made a comment about that the government of Nigeria is in discussion with South Africa over possible compensations to people who have left their businesses, who have left their properties, and even those who are killed, to get some form of justice from the South African government. And a few days after, a minister in the presidency in South Africa came with what looked like a rebuttal, what is actually a rebuttal, trying to say that the Nigerian acting High Commissioner, Mr. Ajayi, didn't understand the issues that both parties discussed. She said clearly that they have a law in South Africa where properties are registered with the Office of the Deeds of Property, where businesses are registered properties. She said can be sold at the market, property market. If there are businesses that are affected, that there are appropriate legal protections for such businesses. But in terms of compensation, the South African government is not going to get into that. That's one. Two, that properties that are located in the shanties. Shanties are the black townships where you have where the suburbs where the poor people live. You say they are not recognized in the laws of South Africa because they are illegal properties. So meaning that the South African government is not making any commitment. And she made a comment that resulted in a diplomatic row between both countries. She said, look, that the South African government would also be interested if the Nigerian government can help them with a list of the den of drug lords in South Africa. So which the spokesperson for Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs retorted and said, look, you must apologize So what she was saying essentially is, look, the Nigerians in South Africa are the people in charge of the drug business, illegal, drug business in South Africa, so that they can clean up their system. So that was for me.
Can you imagine that insult?
And she was clear, because I watched her body language within the diplomatic environment. Body language matters a lot. She was saying it with full assurance. Let me give it to them. These guys don't deserve anything from us. So for me, I read her body language. I could see some level of, look, you don't matter so long as we are concerned. And I think people in the Nigerian foreign ministry should also look at that, analyze it, and then by the time they are doing their report to the president on what should be Nigerian response to the entire reactions, actions, inactions of the South African government, they should know what to do. You saw in the Senate a few days after, Comrade Senator Adams Oshemole, I am not his fan, I don't like his politics, but he came that day as my Senator of the Year. He listed what the Nigerian government should do. We have 128 South African entities operating in Nigeria. Very simple. I mean, his proposal was moderate, because I have a more harsher proposal. He simply said, look, get the profit of all the South African entities in Nigeria, simply appropriate it and resettle all the people who have been displaced. The families of the victims pay compensations to them. So you don't need to go far towards solving this problem. The problem, or the solution to the problem where we're looking in Sokoto, is in our Sokoto. Because that's a better way of managing it. Get a legislation in National Assembly. But I was disappointed by senators, how they reacted. They were reacting like men and women who have a responsibility of duty of care, who didn't understand they have such a responsibility. Because I saw the reaction in the House. For me, I was disappointed, because they don't understand their role. They don't understand reciprocity within the diplomatic engagement. Like in the street parlance in Nigeria, do me, I do you. So that reciprocity principle, usually when you recall your ambassador over a row, the other country retaliates by recalling. And what you're doing, you're sending message directly to the highest authority in the other country. So what our senators, for me, is most often, I think they need to go back to school.
That's our senators now.
I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs may need to conduct a training in diplomatic engagement for them. I was disappointed. I feel they need to be educated on diplomatic processes when you are reacting. Because for me, it looks as if it's Senator Shemole who understood his duty of care as a senator. His duty of care, because I'm sure his constituents are affected. Because you could see the governor of Edo State already rolling out integration program, a reintegration program for people who had come back from Edo State. So for me, I will vote him as the Senator of the Year. The rest of the members of National Assembly are a huge disappointment, who do not understand their role. African National Party lost the majority, because now it was everybody voting. So we had Inkatha, Zulu Party, ANC, and what have you. So my worry is simply this. I've asked severally, is the government of South Africa under ANC, have they lost legitimacy of first providing protection for everybody who is within their borders? Because that's the responsibility of the state. The state is defined by territory, body of laws, which you call the constitution, define organs and agencies of the state, the judiciary, executive, and what have you. So you now have hooligans coming to the street, non-state actors deciding, implementing, and enforcing immigration laws. I said no, that's it. It's a state that has failed. That's what it is. And the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, who incidentally owns the largest telecommunication company in Africa, he founded the company that is operating in Nigeria and virtually every African country. Will sit there and say, look, I wouldn't do anything. He looks as if he's helpless. I've listened to him several times. He doesn't speak like a president who's got authority just because he wants the votes. And there's been several videos of his campaign in the past where he said, I'm going to send everybody away if you vote for me. They are there.
Meaning that's what South Africans wanted all the while.
No, but the point is this. When the politicians create a narrative, you know the problem with politicians is that they can craft any spin. Because politicians have got resources, so they can hire spin doctors who create a spin, and you can create any spin within any system. Just keep pushing it, and constant pushing into the public space sometimes makes it look as if it's a reality, but it's simply a spin. That's what the political class in South Africa had done. Even though there are some exceptions, if you listen to Julius Malema speak, he's on the other side. He's saying, no, who are you sending away? Are you sending away people who have come here to create jobs, employing South Africans? You mentioned about the Nigerian who employs 35 people.
35. He said it.
Nigerians are playing within the informal sector in South Africa. And South African-owned businesses in Nigeria are playing in the formal sector, multi-billion-dollar companies. So, if you look at the entire thing, I think South African politicians are deluded. So it can only be delusional, whatever. What is votes? You should hold up and say, look, we've got a problem. We have not done land redistribution. We are going to design policies over time that will ensure that there's redistribution of wealth within our economy, where people who even work in the mines and the other strategic sectors would get living wage that will be able to pull them out of poverty. Because it's also difficult to chase away the owners of capital, because it belongs to them.
It belongs to them.
You saw even if another person, the other time, President Donald Trump was accusing them of racism against the white South Africans. You know that? And then, as of today, the US government has given a blank check to every South African who wants to migrate to America. So, and it's the same, incidentally, it's the same Ramaphosa who has gone to ICC against Prime Minister Netanyahu.
I wish we could have time. Our time is up.
So the entire thing is simply this. I think if I'm to speak to the Nigerian authorities, government, all they need to do, call the South African president back here and say, look, this is our card. Nigeria has the ace. This 128 companies, we've done it before. Get them nationalized. You saw when Senator Adams Oshimole was speaking, and people who were talking didn't understand history. Maybe they didn't know we nationalized British-owned companies for sake of South Africa.
All right, I wish we could have time, because this is very, very interesting. A lot of people are getting to know so many things right now.
Going on, it's not xenophobia. It's Afrophobia. That's a correct description of what is going on. Fear of other Africans. Because those other Africans are the people they think are the source of their problem. And they have created a political economy around it. So you now have non-state actors who are moving, saying that we are going to implement immigration laws. They will now come and ask individuals on the street, can I see your papers? I mean, for me, it's madness. When I was in the universities in the early 90s, I had South African schoolmates, classmates, and they were all on scholarship.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
So I have met now quite a lot of South Africans. There was a particular South African student, Desmond. When Mandela came to Enugu, he schooled at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. He read medicine on federal government scholarship. So
Nigerian federal government?
I know Desmond. I think he's gone back to South Africa. When Mandela came after his release, Mandela was in Enugu. He actually came to Enugu for one reason, because Nnamdi Azikiwe was old then. So when he visited the then Nigerian president, Ibrahim Babangida, in Lagos, he requested that part of his schedule should be Enugu so that he can meet with Azikiwe, who was his host before he went to prison. Thabo Mbeki, former president of South Africa, was the ANC representative in Lagos, in Nigeria. Because ANC was treated, they had a diplomatic accreditation in Nigeria.
Cool. The leadership, the political leaders of South Africa who are behind this stuff, as you have said,
yeah,
are they not thinking of what will happen after them? What if, after all this pursuit, and their problems still remain?
Okay, see how unthinking they are. I listened the other day to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegwu, saying there are 100 and under General Olusegun Obasanjo had to nationalize British-owned companies in Nigeria because of South Africa. The British Shell company, so what you finally call Unipetrol, African Petrol, were British-owned companies that were nationalized because of the position of Margaret Thatcher, who was the then British Prime Minister on an anti-apartheid movement. Because the British government supported apartheid. In fact, the then President Reagan talked about what they call constructive engagement with the apartheid regime in South Africa. The apartheid regime was a minority regime because the black people didn't have right to vote. So what you had happened in the post-apartheid election, first election, I think in 1993-94, was you now have everybody voting, and when everybody voting, the former ruling party.
All right, that is South Africa now. Well, meaning Adams Oshomole somehow have won your heart because of that singular motion. Okay, let's get to United States. It was everywhere in the papers today that United States, I think that should be in form of a follow-up to what has been on ground, is withdrawing its aid, and a lot of people were like, oh, what will happen to people with HIV, the malaria thing and all of that? What do you think about this? When you say because of a particular fashion, if you said you're doing this thing because you're suspecting a Christian genocide, the Christians also benefit from the aids you're withdrawing. So what do you think about this step and its implication?
Okay, let's get the backstory to it. The backstory is in the United States of America, the budget year is September. So by February, March, the processes for what they call spending bill begins. But because the budget starts from September, I have worked for USAID, the default USAID, worked for quite a lot of donor-funded projects. So I understand the budget. Their budgeting begins from September. So beginning from March, February, March, the budget process begins. So this is the budget in question. The State Department and National Security, the Office of the National Security in the United States, because the Marco Rubio is the current acting National Security Advisor of the United States, or to the US President Donald Trump. So the budget now came in, the spending budget, National Security Advisor and the State Department is their budget that is being considered. They are spending for 2026-2027 financial year. That's what is in focus. Riley Moore, who has been a very big critic or advocate for Christians in Nigeria, had proposed a motion to the spending bill, and he had proposed for a 50% cut that will only, on the basis of that the Nigerian government is not doing enough to protect violence against Christians in Nigeria. That's the contention. But his colleague went further to propose another amendment, and the new amendment, instead of 50% by Riley Moore, is now saying 100% withholding.
That Riley Moore's zone is even more considerate.
Yeah, so I saw a tweet by Congressman Riley Moore where he was saying, look, he endorsed the amendment by his colleague, that he had asked for 50%, but his colleague is now asking for 100%. So what part of the aid or spending will be affected? Is the spending government to government spending? You know, there are two types of spending. The US aid can support a government agency directly. So it's what you call government to government aid. They also can support non-governmental organizations. And within the non-governmental organization, you have two types of aids. You have cooperative agreements, and you also have what they call consultancy. Consultancy means the agency that will implement it will implement and then ask for reimbursement, while the grants or cooperative agreement goes directly to an NGO that is supported. And but from this particular decision that has been taken, is a vote only in the House of Representatives. It needs to go to the Senate. So how the senators vote, perhaps in a few weeks' time, would determine. But that few weeks' time will be between July and August, because on the 1st of September, the new budget year for the United States would have kicked off. 2026-2027 spending bill would have kicked off. So how the Senate votes, the vote in the Senate will be very, very crucial to determine whether this particular amendment and decision by the House of Representatives would kickstart for the rest of the year. And it's likely going to be not the best for Nigeria, because what it means is that that aid that will be suspended, even though the NGOs will not be affected, but government to government aid will all be suspended 100%, assuming the Senate of the United States passes that bill or do not amend it or sustains that 100% withholding of the aid. And it's going to affect a lot of things around security support, or quite a lot of ongoing support that are coming to Nigeria. But I think why it's not too good is that what it will mean is that they are going to now set some sort of indicators, if you like, you could call them setting up the indicators we may meet before the aid can be restored. And assuming it's restored 6 months into the new budget, it means the support that we're going to get for 2026-2027 financial year is likely going to be Very, very small. And then someone will say, do we need American money? I think we do, because within the development sector, the United States controls over almost 60% of the development aid, whether it's to the United Nations, whether it's to the UN agencies, whether it's to for humanitarian support and all that. And I tell you, by the decision taken by President Donald Trump on January 20th, 2025, when he said, we're going to pause all foreign aids by the United States through essentially the USAID, which formed the bulk of the aids, United States Agency for International Development. When it was paused, virtually development activities, especially in low-income countries, middle-level countries, went gaga.
All right. Well, this is a situation, it's a serious situation as it is right now. We're waiting, well, there is a handwriting on the wall, but we are waiting for what's going to be the outcome from the Senate. The House of Representatives have done theirs, and of course, they have their stance as it is. All right, let's bring you some more updates from things happening around the globe before we bring global television's diplomatic perspective to a close. All right, everyone.
The world is fast changing and news breaks at lightning speed. Let us guide you through events and stories about global narratives and developments in geopolitics, diplomacy, foreign affairs, and world economy. Get factual and multi-angle perspectives on stories around the globe. Global Television brings you diplomatic perspective every Monday and Friday.
All right. A very big thank you to our guest in the studio and the person of Emmanuel Ozemena, a policy analyst. Thank you very much for this insight. It's massive.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, everyone. This is the size of diplomatic perspective for you today. We'll bring you more detail and updates as it unfolds from the global scene. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Bye-bye for now.
The world is fast changing and news breaks at lightning speed. Let us guide you through events and stories about global narratives and developments in geopolitics, diplomacy, foreign affairs, and world economy. Get factual and multi-angle perspectives on stories around the globe. Global Television brings you diplomatic perspective every Monday and Friday with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Diplomatic perspective, the world in front of you.